Hello and welcome to We Poets. My name is Sally Baker and I'm the host of We Poets. We Poets is a poetry show for boys and girls between the ages of 6 and 13. So if you would like to be on the program, please have your parents or your school teacher call me. Also, we're always looking for interns to come and get a free internship and produce our programs. So if you would like to be an intern, please have your teacher or your parents call me. And I'm always looking for adult guests to come and tell young people and teenagers something about their job careers that these young people can pursue when they graduate from high school and college. Tonight we have a very special guest, and his name is Mr. Philip Miller. He's a tutor, and he's going to tell us all about his career of teaching school in an elementary school and also a homeschool teacher. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Miller. Hi, Mr. Miller.
Hi.
How are you tonight?
Fine, thank you.
I'm so glad you could come and be on We Poets and tell the young people all about your interesting career teaching.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
So first of all, I would like to ask you, what comes first, drawing or writing, and which do you prefer?
Well, actually, drawing came first. When I was traveling out to the West Coast in 1976, I took a writing journal with me, but by the time I was traveling by thumb. By the time I got to California, my writing had turned into drawings. That's how drawing started back then.
And you still draw?
I still draw.
And you still write?
I still write, yes, I do.
Good. And did any other family members write and draw?
No, I'm the first one, really.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, good, good. Can you tell us something about your background, your educational background?
Well, I went to high school in upstate New York, and then I went to college at the University of Buffalo outside of where I lived, the town I lived in, Williamsville, New York. And I majored in history, and I took a minor in math because math was kind of simple for me. So when I wanted to take an elective or get an easy A, I could take a math course. And so I ended up getting a minor in math.
Great. And what year did you move to California?
1976.
So you've been here ever since, huh?
Ago.
A long time ago, yes. Now my next question, when did you start writing poems and stories?
I started doing that in 2011. I'd been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2004, and I stayed in the classroom teaching for a while, for about 4 years, and then I went to teaching homeschooling. But around 2011, I started writing, doing something that I always wanted to do, but never had taken the time to do it. And I think getting the illness diagnosis made it more compelling to start doing what I had put off for so long. Because all of a sudden you realize that life isn't endless.
That's right. Life is short. Yes. Could you tell the boys and girls, what is Parkinson's disease?
Parkinson's disease is a neurological disease, which means a disease of the brain. It can't be caught. It's not contagious or anything like that. And it takes a long time to develop, but it's mostly noticed by the tremor, by shaking. Usually it's your right hand or your left hand that does that. But then it also has effects on the rest of your system, like your brain doesn't tell you to do things in the right order or something like that. So it gets harder to balance, gets harder to swallow after a while, things like that. But the more you are active in your life and do the things that you love to do, the longer your life is, the less you succumb to the illness.
Of course.
That's the secret.
Did that bother you in the classroom, and did the children... were they curious why you were shaking?
Well, yeah, I was hiding it. I thought I was hiding it for a while. I put my arm behind the big poster board or something I was working on, until one kid raised his hand and he said, "Why does your hand shake so much?" And I said, "Oh, you noticed it. I thought nobody noticed it." But then they were very good about it. Kids don't really care about things like that.
Adults do, yes.
Right. They're a lot more giving in that way, I think. But adults are really supportive and nice, too. Everybody knows someone, I think, these days that has Parkinson's or had it.
But it hasn't stopped you from doing the things you wanted to do.
No, that's the most important thing.
Yes.
No matter what you end up with, to keep going and do the things you love.
That's right. Now, let's see, my next question. What were your favorite subjects in school?
My favorite subjects in school were math and history. History because it was stories that I loved and made it come alive for me. And math because, like I said before, it was pretty easy for me.
So you brought some poems that you're going to read and some greeting cards that you're going to show, right?
Yes, I
Would you
did.
like to read a poem first?
Sure, I'll read a poem first. This is called The Thing. Okay, here's the thing. Don't forget to have a good time. Let me put it over here.
That's all right.
Don't forget to have a good time in life. Not all the time, of course. We've all seen what happens to those people. Besides, I don't think they're really having a good time. Anyway, don't forget, because so much bad stuff happens in life, you can't avoid it. But here's the thing. Some people get so bogged down in the negative parts of life that they forget about having fun. You see them out there trying so hard to get ahead, or trying to repair all the damage that's been done to the world. If I tried to remind them about the fun part of life, they might get angry and say, I don't care. There are more important things. But I think they do care. It's just that, okay, here's the thing. If you can't laugh, can't have fun, at least some of the time, then everything just seems so hopeless. And without hope, I mean, why bother?
Wonderful. Have you
Thank
had
you.
your poems published?
I have had some of them published.
In what journal or book?
It was a journal called Autobiography Magazine. You could submit stories and poems, and if they accepted them, then they were published. But unfortunately, I lost those, and I don't have copies of them to show.
Would you like to read another one, please?
Sure, I will. This is called Can't Do It Without You. And it's easier for me to leave these on the table,
Yes, that's
actually.
fine.
So good. Inspiration. Where did you go? I need you to help me express what's deep inside. Inspiration. Why did you leave? Was it because I started hanging out with indulgence? You two never did get along. Inspiration. When are you returning? Come back soon, please. I don't have a lot of time. And bring ideas with you.
Good. Nice and short. You
Thank
have
you.
another short one?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I have about 200 of them, actually.
Well, we're not going to do 200 tonight.
Okay. This is called I Wonder. As a kid, I never could get the 7 wonders straight. I'd write them down, then count, but would always end up with 8, or 9 or 10 or 11. Not near enough, and yet, officially there are just 7 on our entire planet. We've vast blue oceans and places where trees grow to the sky, huge mountains, tropical spaces where new life forms pass by, and built ones like China's Great Wall, Stonehenge, Great Pyramids too, Angkor Wat, the Taj Mahal, Machu Picchu, Peru. History books tell us about those ones of long ago, Babylon's gardens, ziggurats, the Colossus of Rhodes. Must we cross them off the list because they're knocked to the ground? We know they did at one time exist, though now they're not around. Of many wonders we've now heard, though not nearly of all. Once more I'll say it's just absurd to make the list so small.
Great. Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you.
Now I have a few more questions here for you.
Sure.
My next question, let's talk about growing up. What was your first job?
My first job was working in a soda pop bottling factory in a little village that I lived in Williamsville. A man in his own operation and a building out in the back of his house, behind his house. And it was in the days when everything wasn't big products, big brands. Little towns had their own soda labels. And
Right.
so we took the bottles that came back to us from the deposits, they brought the bottles back, and we cleaned them, we put them on a machine. It was a giant machine that they got washed, and then they went down a track, and they got scrubbed, and then the syrup poured in, and the soda poured in, and the bottle cap went on it, and then it was ready for the case, and then they'd go back out, and we'd deliver them to the local restaurants around the area. $1.25 an hour I made.
$1.25 an hour in those days? That was a good wage in those
I
days.
know, yeah.
How old were you?
15.
15. We had a 7-Up soda bottling company in my town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
right, right. I never worked there, but we'd go by and get samples,
Oh, okay.
especially on hot summer days, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You remember those hot
I
summers
bet.
in the Midwest?
I sure do.
And those cold
yeah.
winters in the winter? Ooh,
Very cold.
very cold, yes.
The snow would be over our heads,
Oh, yes.
but we were kids. So.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And the snowballs, the boys would make snowballs and put rocks in them and throw it at us girls in the back of the head.
I
Oh,
know.
that would hurt. The boys were so mean.
We were mean, yeah.
Ooh. Now, let's see. Let's talk about what were your favorite we talked about your favorite subject to teach. You said math and history.
Well, I was in school, but to teach math and history also, because history, a lot of kids don't like it, but it comes alive when you tell stories. Tell us a story. There's so many fascinating stories that have happened in the world,
Oh, yes, yes.
and down to history, and that makes it more interesting for students. And math, because there was a way to teach math that's not as confusing as the way they do it in the textbooks. And there are ways to get students to understand ways they've never thought about it before. But then my really favorite subject to teach was science, which surprised me because I wasn't good at science in school when I was in school. But to do experiments with the kids and watch them get so excited when their experiment works, you know, if they were making an electrical circuit and lighting a light bulb or sending messages through Morse code, electricity, those kinds of things. They loved it so much, they didn't want to leave class when the class ended.
Oh, really? Did any of your experiments ever explode?
No, we never had an exploding
Oh,
one,
good. That's good.
fortunately.
Fortunately, yes. Now, let's see here. Who's the most famous person that you ever met?
I'd love to answer this question. It was Rosa Parks.
Oh,
And she was someone that I was a hero of mine before I met her, but then she came to stay at the hotel I was working at downtown San Francisco called the Palace Hotel.
oh,
And it was 1984, the Democratic National Convention was in town. She came as a speaker. And so I knew she was staying up in her room. I was just a front desk worker, but I went up to her door and I knocked on her door. And a young woman came to the door. I said, please tell Ms. Parks that we're very honored to have her and staying in our hotel. I became kind of a diplomat for the hotel.
good.
But yeah, and that we're very honored to have her here, and that anything she needs to, she can call me personally. My name's Phil Miller. I work at the front desk. So she said, I think Ms. Parks would like to meet you. And so she went and got her, and she came to the door and shook my hand. And
Oh,
I repeated the same thing to her. She was very pleasant, and very, very nice person.
good. Did you have a picture taken with her?
No, I didn't get a picture taken with
Didn't
her.
get a picture, uh-huh. Wow.
I have it in my mind.
You have it in
Never
your mind?
forget it.
Well, that's wonderful. Let's see here. Well, I think maybe should we take a break? And then we'll come back and then we're going to talk about your artwork. You brought some lovely artwork here that we'd like to talk
Okay,
about.
sure.
And we're going to talk about your grandfather. And so let's take a break and then we'll come back and talk about that. So boys and girls and ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back and Mr. Miller's going to show us some of the lovely artwork. He does greeting cards and then he's going to read a poem or a dedication from his grandfather who used to write, your grandfather used to write the poetry too?
He wrote poetry. He was a big believer in poetry, but he wrote stories too.
Okay, so we're going to take a break and then we're going to come back. So boys and girls and ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to We Poets. I'm Sally Baker, the host, and we're at La Pena Cultural Center here in Berkeley, California, producing our show tonight, and my special guest is Mr. Miller. And now, Mr. Miller, you're going to show us some of the lovely greeting cards that you paint and sell. So be
Yes.
our guest, please.
Okay. These are ones that are at a bookstore near my house. They sell them. And this is, that's the cathedral building down on Broadway, 14th and Broadway. And I always try to put people in that are talking to each other and enjoying themselves in each other's company. So there's two people sitting on a bench there in front of the building, chatting with each other. And that's a watercolor that I did.
Good.
Okay, and this is also a watercolor. That's the apartment building that's near Lake Merritt. There's a goose in front because there's a lot of geese around there.
Yes.
So, you know. And I can't remember the name of the building, but it's an old apartment building. And what I was trying to do with these cards was when Oakland didn't have such a great reputation as it does now. And so I was trying to show good things about Oakland.
Good.
Yes, so that's how this whole project got started.
Mm-hmm.
These are some redwoods in Joaquin Miller Park, big redwoods. And that's actually a pastel. That's not watercolor, but pastels, chalk pastels. And so I like the color in it. You can be really colorful with pastels as a medium.
What times of day do you go out and do your artwork?
I like to go early in the morning.
Oh,
The light is really different at that time.
I
Like
see.
the shadows here on the redwood trees, from the redwood trees. They're long and they show, beautiful, beautiful purple colors, soft purples. And yeah, it's really magic time to be out.
good, good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is also a pastel. It's a tree. When they cut down all the redwood trees in the mid-1800s in Oakland, the giant old ones, they left one, and it's still there today. So you can go see it. It's an old growth redwood tree. It's, I think, 500 or 600 years old. Was here before all the Europeans got here and started chopping them all down. So it's on a steep hill, and that's why they think that's why they left that one.
And what street is it on?
It's not on a street. It doesn't even have a trail going to it.
Oh.
If you go to 35th Avenue and you go up towards Skyline, there's a middle school that's right across the street from you. You can see it from the parking lot of the middle school. But it's in a woods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on the way up to, can't remember the name of that college. It's up there.
Well, that's all right.
Merritt College, maybe?
Could be. Anyway, let's see the next one,
Okay.
please.
This is a stairway, the public stairway that's down the street from where I live. It's called Woodhaven Way Steps. And there's a lot of public stairways in the hills of Oakland. And they're like, go from one block to another, just go up the stairs. And you can drive around the block to get there, but you can also take these staircases. A lot of them are really beautiful. This one has bamboo trees all around it, so on both sides. So it's kind of like a passageway through the forest, even though there are houses nearby.
Mm-hmm. Good. You have one more, right?
One more. This one's kind of boyish, but it's Mount Diablo. That's a pastel also. And it's if you go up to the regional parks on the other side of Skyline, this was from Huckleberry Regional Park, you can see great views of Mount Diablo. It changes colors, different times of day, different seasons. And, when it's rainy, it's all much greener and different shades of brown than in the summertime and before it starts raining again. Then the light of day changes the colors a lot too.
Now, where do you sell these lovely cards?
I sell them at a store called The Book Tree. It's on LaSalle
Oh,
Street Avenue, near where I live,
I
up
see.
in Montclair.
and how many come in a box?
I put them in a pack of 8.
A pack of 8? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
An assortment of these.
Yeah, and put envelopes, and I tie them with a piece of ribbon to
Good.
sell them like that.
Good. Well, you're a busy man.
I try to be.
Yes. Now, do you teach the children how to do the painting of these cards?
Yes, I do.
Really?
I love to teach
What age children do you teach?
any age.
Any age?
Yeah, right now I'm teaching high school kids, and I'm also teaching a 6th grader,
Good.
tutoring them. But so many children don't do art and don't make art because they don't think they're any good at it. And
Oh.
that's really
Sad,
unfortunate
yes.
because you don't do it because you're good, you do it because you love it.
Love it. Mhm.
And anything that you do because you love it, you do it over and over and you get better.
Yes.
Then people start telling you how good you are, but it just comes in the process. Yeah.
Good, good. Now, you have something here that your grandfather wrote, right? A book of
Yes.
poetry, is it?
It's a book of, it's called God's Christmas, actually. You take it?
Okay.
And,
You want me to hold it as you read it?
sure. It was published in 1940, and my grandfather was a minister,
Oh,
and he thought that Christmas was getting too commercialized at that time, back in 1940. So he wrote a book about it to remember the true meaning of Christmas, but then he put the dedication, he dedicated it to Santa Claus. He said, "My childhood friend who never gives up trying to make children believe this is a good world." So that speaks to make-believe and believing in things that aren't necessarily fact, but allow you to dream and use your imagination.
and what year was this written and published?
Published in 1940.
1940.
Yeah,
Wow. So this is a treasure.
it certainly is.
Yes, that is, and you keep it in good shape. Where do
Thank
you
you.
keep it in your home?
I keep it on the bookshelf. There's a bookshelf for special books, and that's on the special book bookshelf.
I see. And let's talk, what's the cover say?
Cover says Principlo. It's Latin. It's
Oh,
hard
it's
to
Latin.
read. Del something.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. Well, I know your grandfather's looking down from heaven and he's really proud of his grandson.
I hope so.
Yes, yes. Now, let's see here. Do we want to talk about homeschooling?
Sure.
Okay. Tell us, when did you start homeschooling?
I started homeschooling in 2008 or 2009, I believe. And I'd been in the classroom for a long time. The problem with teaching in a classroom, problem with learning for students, is there's too many students to work with each one individually.
Right.
So in homeschooling, it's a one-on-one situation. I would see the students once a week, and
Good.
I would check their work, and I would work with them one-on-one, or sometimes with their parents too. And that was the way to really zoom in on a student, what the student loves the most, and then work with that to get to bring out their education. You can teach all the different subjects based on what the student is interested in, rather than just teaching to a whole class of different interests.
Now, what day or evening did you go to the home to tutor these homeschooled students?
I actually worked in a school the whole time. They would come to me.
Oh, they would come to you. You didn't go to their home.
No, there
Oh.
was School of the Arts I worked in San Francisco, because it was all part of the San Francisco Unified School District.
I see.
And then Independence High School for a while too. They moved us to Independence High School, but the students would come to my classroom.
I see. And what hours of the day did they come?
Anywhere from 8 o'clock in the morning till 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
And then their parents would come and pick them up?
Yes, except the parents, a lot of times, I encourage parents to come with them because they were supposed to be the teachers at home.
Right,
I only saw the students once a week. So if the parent could, get the lesson, whatever subject it was, and understand it before they went home and tried to work with the student on it, that was the best
I see.
situation.
About how many students did you homeschool during your tenure?
I had about 20 to 22 students a year, and so that was, I did it for 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah,
Oh, good, good.
so then I retired, and
Then you retired,
yeah.
and then you relaxed and then started your writing, huh? And your beautiful cards, making your beautiful cards.
Spent more time on that, yes.
Oh, yes, yes, Well, I want to thank you so much. You've been so interesting about doing everything. Is there anything else you'd like to touch upon before we end the program?
Nothing I can think of. I could read another poem that
Oh, do you have a short poem?
describes me.
A short one?
Yes, I do.
We don't want to run out of time here.
Sure.
Okay.
Let's see. Well, I'll read this one. It's called Strut and Fret, which is a stage expression.
We have
Strut
1
and-
minute, so I'll
Okay.
read quickly.
I wore my new shirt today. I felt so good in it. I have to remember to unzip my jacket when I get on the train, I thought to myself, even if I'm cold. I wanted people to get a look at it, at me in it. They would ooh and ah, thinking, that guy is so handsome. I wish I knew him. I knew that I'd be getting lots of compliments at work. I thought to myself, I have to remember to say thank you instead of, yeah, I know, when people exclaim about my beautiful shirt. No one said a word about it. I have to remember that people are people, I thought to myself, not characters in my own personal play.
And that's it. Oh, that was very nice, very
Thank
nice.
you.
Well, I want to thank you for coming. We've really learned a lot from you, and you're so inspirational. And I hope a lot of the boys and girls watching, and adults too, will seek you out. And do you go out and give presentations?
I would if anybody was interested.
Well, maybe you'll
Yeah.
get lots of calls. Well,
Okay.
anyway, thank you so much. And boys and girls and ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to be a guest like Mr. Miller has been tonight, or a poet, or an intern, please call us. So without further ado, let's wave goodbye. Goodbye, everybody,
Bye.
and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.